Abusia for some ya we say 2026 budget ni ewom say COVID-19 recovery level no ye betwam. Ai na over the weekend ukopiem ewo TV3 omo program afa ni key points empanifo awodo kopiem de omano nsam atudwa. Solomon Owusu communications director ma Alan Party United Party was say na COVID na twam do that so je ho levy ye dey. Don de obo aban na baso. Dr Joshua Zato say ohwe sika na nka ban benya free COVID-19 levy mu a wone aban na nya adwese watwam. Sa enso so na private legal practitioner Martin Kpebu na no nsem atudwa o say na his excellency John Dramani Mahama the NDC manifesto ne wom so COVID-19 recovery levy no omo betwam etoma wini aban na omo twam a ore de ehunu say ne kwan so ano no enti aban deserve some credit for abolishing the COVID-19 recovery levy. Papa Efeno Dr Zato ono technical advisor of finance ministry ono so achechiri ma de kontia COVID-19 levy no na emra so say wo say aban ni etwam ye bedwudwam e de amam right here on Nana Janto team pacho obeklik subscribe button amamisia we have bell notification icon no na watere no say be video no drop here won sabe ka video no hwe nyina no obe like na leave comments in the comment section afa we are obe share na for so anya bi ahwe ye mama kwa ba na nwura nsem over the weekend key points ewo TV3 program so afro cancel hosting na mpanyifo wo de kopiem no mano nsem ekotudwa fa COVID-19 levy na aban no atwam through the 2026 budget. Yen share from Solomon Owusu communications director Emma Alan Party United Party. Wachechirem say na COVID ni before COVID-19 levy. And I say before COVID-19 no ni ye ni bibi e COVID-19 levy. Enti waji levy na necessary am no ka say obi agitum se COVID ne kwade a e di enti na da so edge COVID-19 levy no. Ti ono ne aban na ya adwe na biom sika you lose through corruption, scandals, abusiafo watibi, NSS scandal, buffer stock scandal. Say some panyifo ye investigate mu nyina if they are found culpable. According to Solomon Owusu, sika ye involved in these scandals no. A check COVID-19 levy na ye agent. Already oni aban na address we twam. No more focus on corruption because Ghana had him say no corruption e di esika pa e wie esika pa. Eti o scandals here akoso omamu in the last 8 years now. A check COVID-19 na you ne agent no. Already when you abani agency yetwam na ye focus on scandals in the end ebema man anya scam businesses why how be yankoni nkoti Solomon Owusu. Solomon, you will enjoy listening to him yeba dey yakana bremo.
Thank you very much Alfred. I think as a country you must understand that revenue if you are targeting revenue it means you must be targeting expansion of an economy or business promotion of business. Many a times what our policies seek to do is to be targeting how much government is gaining from taxes, but rather not how we can improve the environment for which businesses will thrive. I mean, Alfred, if taxes are low in any country, what it does is that it promotes business. And every government in this country, indirectly, governments have 25% shares in all companies. Because at the end of the year, if a company does well, the government goes for what we call corporate tax. And so from that corporate tax, you can be making up for these COVID taxes that you are imposing on businesses. But if you tax the people more, now products coming from companies or businesses become expensive. Now what businesses are having high overhead costs, overruns, it translates into their products. And then the products also become very expensive, reducing demand for such products, and ultimately these businesses collapse. And that is why many a times you find few companies being the ones paying taxes to government and reducing tax revenue. So I'm always for low taxes. COVID-19, as the name suggests, before COVID struck us, there was nothing like COVID-19, and we were surviving. I did not witness or see that impact this taxation brought onto us. And so once we declared the country as a COVID-free zone, that COVID was no more, there was no business whatsoever that this tax will continue to be in our tax books.
Well, the justification for it being on our tax books still was that we needed revenue for investment in our health sector to improve on health infrastructure. That's why even after COVID left us effectively, or the pandemic was over, we still had it on our books. I mean,
exposés from the Public Accounts Committee, corruption issues that we are discussing, the billions that have been left off the hook, suggest to me that the always rationale we put behind some of these taxes are needless. The money is there. What we have been doing is that we have been taxing the citizens to cover the corruption that we are engaged in. 81 billion from 2020 to 2024 per your own data, according to the Auditor General Department, has been monies lost through corruption. How much did we get from COVID-19 levy? 10 point what? Is it not 10.2 billion?
Yes.
So how then do you justify you losing 81 billion in the space of 4 years to the 10.2 billion? What you then have to do is to seal the loopholes or tighten areas that leads to corruption. Because if we are able to even have corruption, then we are making about a savings of about 40 billion. We will not need the COVID-19 levy. If you were able to deal with the issues at the national service, 2.4 billion, why would you need the COVID-19 levy? So it is the corruption that is the bane and not the more taxes we impose on the citizenry. And it's the more reason why you have a huge unemployment rate. If you are stifling the private sector, mind you, the private sector is the engine of growth. Any tax you impose puts more restrictions on them. If you stifle them, they will not be able to expand to take in more people. And that is the reason why the youth are not getting jobs to do. So I am for the scrapping of this COVID-19 levy. Rather, we must focus on dealing with issues of corruption and make sure that the little that we mobilize by way of taxes, we utilize it effectively. Not just corruption, but also even the choice of projects that we do, the costing of it. I've said that I don't understand why, if government wants to engage a contractor in any project, they advertise for people to tender. After the tender process, what prevents any government from posting the results of the tender? So that we know that government said that it was going to buy a flat screen. You understand?
Yes.
And then after at the end of the tender, the person that won said it can provide it to us at the cost of say 1 cedi. Then we know whether indeed in the open market it is costing us 1 cedi. Because many a time government is involved in any project, and it has been shown by activities of benevolent institution and corporate world, MTN and so, that whereas they are constructing 6 classroom blocks at say 100,000, government alone goes in and it costs us 2 million cedis. How do we break this disparity? Is it because it's government that is costing that much? But if you begin to publish outcomes of tenders, I tell you that some of these corruption in terms of procurement will go down, and we will make savings, and we will not have to tax the people that more.
COVID-19 levy was a regressive tax. That's the analysis that Mr. Jackson put out there, although it was a sure revenue measure. Dr. Zato?
Thank you very much. I'm not surprised that...
Enti Solomon Owusu, Abusiafo Communications Director, I'm Alan Party na wotin nkan. Owie ana Dr. Joshua Zato, ono lecturer University of Ghana, Political Science and Policy lecturer University of Ghana. Osi ohwesika na nka abane be generated from COVID-19 recovery levy na. Oni abane nyadwen. Na COVID-19 levy no, sa abane na ntwam na nkoje ya. Anka nema be bre no betimi di aye o man mu hanim sei. O chechire mu se sika ohwe sa levy na abane skapa 3 billion. Osi nye sika ketwa. Ntono do ni abane nyadwen ese ki atwam na ke yo no a anka o mientwam. Yenkone nkotie Dr. Joshua Zato Yaba, I'm not combating Kpebu any Dr. Theo Champion so asoye.
They just don't. It just comes with the environment. So they would never like high taxes. So no matter what, in fact, they will not. If they have their way, they will not even pay taxes. So we've seen. No. I'm saying philosophically, ideologically, that is how it is. Most of the big players in Wall Street and in Ghana, it's high street. No, it's high street, right? The equivalent should be high street in Ghana. They don't like high tax. So I can understand that from that philosophical ideological position. But 3.7 billion, I wouldn't have thrown it away. Especially considering that the government in power, they are social democrats. The government has some very, very big projects that they want to execute. Take Big Push. This money could have done amazing with a Big Push. I wouldn't have thrown it away. 2, take right now, apart from the amount of money you need to complete all the projects in the Big Push, you also have a serious problem of farmers all over the country. The Minister of Agri said that he released 100 million cedis to buy food stock, and it finished in 3 days. It finished in 3 days because there's so much to buy. The president gave a directive for all schools and others to buy this. So I would have, again, put this money into that to make sure that the farm, but today there's a lot of cereal, maize, rice, beans. all over the markets, even in Tachima market, in all over the place, in Tumu market, in Chalon market, in all the places. The farmers cannot sell, and the price, in fact, it's about 300 cedis. The price is so low, they cannot sell, and even they don't even have people to buy. I would have given some of this money to buffer stock, and I would say mop up, because the 100 million was not enough. The 200 million they are bringing will not be enough. I would have done that, given it to buy, so that these farmers can reinvest it. It creates jobs directly. You were talking about jobs directly. A lot of the youth in where I come from, the Sala West, have farms. If you see a teacher, he has about 2-3 acres. You see a nurse, he has about 3 acres. All of them have farms. And that is another employment source of income. So I would also put this money to that. I wouldn't push away.
But at what cost?
No, so let me phrase this for you.
Has its own impact.
There's something called the Ghana Integrated Iron Steel Development Corporation. It is cash stuff. They didn't get enough money in the budget. Look, they have found, what is the name? Iron ore fund in Sisala East, Ote region, Western region, Northern region, other places. Imagine you had committed a lot of this money into that. Most of the people that are now doing galamsey could have found other places to go and work. You'll be creating jobs, you'll be getting iron ore, and you can then increase the value chain of the iron ore to get it done. So my point is that there are so many other things you could do with this amount of money instead of just putting it. So give more money to the Ghana Integrated Iron Steel Development Corporation, put more money into the big push, put more money into free HSS, because again, social democrats are tax and spend politicians. They should tax and spend to expand the economy and to so free. That is what I would have done, because the question you are asking is, and you ask some very genuine question. If we let this money go, there's always this economic theory that a rising waves tide lifts all boats. That is what he said. That if you the economic idea is that if you lose taxes, businesses will lower taxes, they will invest in the economy, and then when the businesses do well, it will lift everyone. We said it doesn't happen like that. They get the tax breaks and they use it to buy back shares. They used to do other things. They don't invest. So there is that. In fact, that theory, that economic principle of a rising wave lifting all boats, has also been challenged. It's always something that is favored by the political right, liberal conservatives, and then they like. So for me, I'm surprised that social democrats are letting this amount of money go, considering the big projects they want to do. 24-hour economy, Women Development Bank, the big push project, shoring up the free HSS. I wouldn't have done that. Maybe I would have reduced the rate to bring it on, but I wouldn't put this money away.
Okay, well, Dr. Zato Champong is a technical advisor at the Finance Ministry. He's a political risk analyst. Dr. Zato Champong, good.
Enti Dr. Joshua Zato anusi ya ana Dr. Theo Champong ono ye technical advisor of Finance Ministry ebamu no say oh I mean what Dr. Joshua Zato nsem na wo kana no but ono de ono ne nyaadwen who ni say emraso ono as advisor of Ministry of Finance ebraso say COVID-19 levy na o see etwam because I mean you introduce tax for a particular purpose tax na you introduce here through COVID-19 no na bi a say COVID na baniti ni e be hia etuo bi a ye begege ne de aso yare na ano kwan ana ye be so yare na no se si amano kase obi agitum se COVID-19 afri Ghana hanum sei enti ono as advisor of Finance Ministry no ohu hie o se oman ko so age COVID-19 level no enti yankonye nkoti Dr. Theo Champong na fe wi a na the man of the moment Martin Kpebu so nsem on COVID-19 level abramo
math, and it's not just revenue. Look, the people of this country have suffered enough, especially the last couple of years. When you look at the cost of living crisis, the financial crisis that we went through, the debt restructuring, and all manner of other things that have happened to people in the country. And when you introduced a measure, so-called COVID-19 levy, and you don't have the pandemic around anymore, it's quite difficult to justify that. I get a point that he's saying that, oh, this money is could have been used for other things, but the fundamental premise of the tax or the levy was to help address issues or the health related aspects of the pandemic. Look, when you come to taxation, there are 4, call it core principles or canons. Anybody who studied tax law or tax economics will tell you. Taxes have got to be 1, efficient. They've got to be number 2, equitable. Number 3, transparent. And then number 4, they've got to be easy to administer. When you look at our overall tax structure when it comes to VAT. We had a combination of straight levies, and then we have and then the VAT element in it. And what that did was to create a lot of distortions, right, within the system. So it had become more or less inefficient. It had become inequitable. It was not transparent. You could argue that, okay, on the fourth point of administration, maybe relatively easy to administer. But remember that you are competing also against your peers within the sub-region. You want to be able to attract investment. At the same time, you want to help your citizens and households and businesses that have gone through a very, very torrid and difficult time as a result of the pandemic and cost of living issues. So when you are looking at a region, the African and the West African region, where the average VAT rate is around 18%, and Ghana's VAT is close to 21.9%, right? That is a strong disincentive for investment. And then at the same time, you are punishing households. So really the policy decision was to try and rationalize this tax base to make it a bit more efficient, to make it equitable, to make it transparent, and then to, of course, make it very easy, right, to administer. So when you then go into the mechanics or the details, what really is being done here is to try and scrap the tax, put the money directly into the pockets of citizens, put the money directly into the pocket of businesses, so they can, better plan and use that to do other things. The argument about government losing revenue is neither here nor there, because at the end of the day, you want to support businesses, you want to support households, and there's nothing better about doing that than pushing, right, the money directly into their pocket while you broaden, right, the tax base, and allows you to also sort of compete, right? Mm-hmm. And the beauty of this, again, arrangement is not even just the COVID-19 levy. If you read the budget very carefully, there's also a proposal, right, to increase the registration threshold for VAT from 200,000 to 750,000.
Yes.
For a very long time, these thresholds had been kept very low and had not been adjusted in line with inflation. In other words, in real terms, when you look at those thresholds, they were very, very small, and many businesses were being forced into becoming eligible for tax when they should not, and the cost of compliance goes up, right, for them. So when you increase this threshold, you would broaden it, you improve the means of raising, you broaden it, and you allow, the businesses some of the exemptions that are given, and overall you improve, right, the ease of, right, administration. Again, there's also the decoupling, right, of the GET fund and then NHI levies as well, right, from the overall tax base. So what this again allows you to do is that anytime you go and buy something, if you are a businessman or a businesswoman, you can claim the input that tax, right, on that amount from the output tax that has been paid. And this, for me, is a much fairer and better way of going about things, because hitherto, your GET fund, your NHI levels were not part of what you can claim as part of the input-output system. So overall, when you actually work out the mechanics, what you see is that you might be losing a little bit of revenue, which for me should not even be an argument, but rather you are pushing money into, right, the real people within the economy. And that helps to ease some of the cost of living pressures and also improves your competitiveness, right, as a country, given also the fact that there are comprehensive reforms that are also taking place on the tax front. So again, it's not just VAT. there is the Income Tax Act, the Customs Act, the Excise Duty Act. All of these things in the coming year are all going to be further reformed to again promote equity. You want to ensure competitiveness, and then you want to allow that enhanced revenue generation. So really, when you look at the totality of the tax policy reforms that are proposed within the budget, it is not just a question of losing revenue per se, but you are actually broadening the base and you are pushing money into the businesses and into the households.
I see. So you're sure
as for the VAT, the element of that COVID-19 bit in there, those things were all highly regressive, and it was an inefficient way of collecting revenue.
I see. So you're sure that all these revenue measures, the policies and interventions, the reforms we're seeing will be enough, all things being equal, to make up for the loss and even rake in more revenue in the next fiscal year?
So if you look at the budget and you look at the fiscal term framework, right? So there's a table 14, that gives you an indication of the next 3 years, 2026 to 2029, the medium-term fiscal framework. And if you look at what the proposal is to raise revenue, total revenue and grants is actually 16.8% of GDP, and then the expenditure side is 18.9%. If you do an analysis of the data and you go back the last 5, even 10 years, consistently, when your revenues, for example, dip in a particular quarter over the course of the year, we've always had to make a corresponding adjustment on the expenditure side. That's one thing. Number two, if you look at the revenue as a share of GDP, which I've just mentioned, the proposals in the 26 budget are not radically different from what you have in the 25 budget. So in the 25 budget, you're looking at around 16% of GDP. In the 26 budget, you're looking at going up to 16.8%, right, of GDP. And then over the medium term, that stabilizes around 17% of GDP, which is where we ought to be, and it can even go further up. So the different measures that are being proposed to sustain revenue, the tax compliance efforts that are being going to be pushed through, the reform efforts that is also going to go through, cross-border transactions, digital platforms, the introduction of the electronic fiscal devices. So basically, these are sales registers and billing machines, would all go a long way to ensure that the revenue base is met. And actually, interestingly, when you look at the data and the evidence base from these electronic fiscal devices, right, from Ethiopia, from Tanzania, from Zambia, all the evidence is actually quite clear that when you bring in these electronic sales registers and POS and other billing machines, right, one, they actually increase the reported sales, and number two, importantly, the tax payment also goes up. That's one. Right. Number two, the tax base does not even appear to be negatively affected, right? So that's some of the concerns that people often have. But the evidence within Africa and many other jurisdictions actually shows a very strong positive relationship between the amount of tax that you're collecting through these electronic devices and total tax revenue collection. So again, to state the point, it's a comprehensive set of reforms that are being pushed through, and it should not have that much of an impact on your revenue. Importantly, you are pushing money to people within the real sector of the economy. That's really is the important point.
You are champion see na Martin Kpebu about private legal practitioner Martin Kpebu. You couldn't go to what say now His Excellency Shebo said in his first 100 days in office as president, COVID-19 11 obetwam. Anya hwe in the first year there was Shebo NDC manifesto no COVID-19 11 obetwam. It you only abane adwen na abane deserves credit. Say what COVID-19 11 was Shebo what diso. enye obi an wo hyeba odi so enti ochechiremu ye kwenye nkote Martin Kpebu menye ne nsem nka. I think you enjoy listening to Martin Kpebu in this particular insight on COVID-19 Levy.
Mahama pledged to abolish when he takes office. So as part of the campaign,
Yes.
okay, to for the 2024 election, he pledged. And also, if you check the 120-day social contract, it's in there that he will abolish it within the first 100 days, right? Yes. I will scrap. So watch, CTFM has this, citynewsroom.com, 24th August 2024 has this. I will scrap e-levy, COVID levy, other taxes within 100 days in office, attributed to President Mahama. That's 24th August 2024. Then you have other stories. So that one, we can't deny it. Look, different portals all carrying the story that the president had promised to abolish it, right? So, you know, in politics, of course, there's economic justification, but we are just reminding ourselves, okay, this political
because
aspect.
it became a political issue as well.
Yes, a U-turn can be very costly, very costly. You know, in the UK, like this, one example, Keir Starmer and Richard Reeves, they are suffering because of U-turns, some U-turns they've made. And, you know, voters are deserting them to the extent that even now reform looks very attractive. They said today, if they were to hold elections, reform would win, would beat Labour and the Conservatives hands down, etc. And you see Ghana too, we are very savvy people. The 2024 election showed that we are very savvy. The only part we are yet to improve on is that's what we are savvy when it comes to elections, voting. The part we are yet to improve on massively is in between the elections, getting up to demonstrate, getting up to shout, show the anger. We don't tend to show too much of it. If you look at how we stomached Akufo-Addo's misgovernance, etc., then it tells you that, look, we need to do a lot more in terms of showing that anger. There is a huge deficit because if we're a bit aggressive, we could have stopped Akufo-Addo. As a nation, we could have. But because most Ghanaians are, you know, laid back, oh, my wife and kids, every time my wife and kids. Hey, and even if you came here to talk, then they say, hey, these people are wicked, they will kill you. They fear. Maybe let's give another 2 election cycles. We hope that will change. Because historically, you know, at the symposium we did on Monday, the lifestyle audit, you know, Dr. Agbe came to say that, yes, even research during Kwame Nkrumah's time showed that Ghanaians have always been laid back. We are timid people. We need to get rid of that timidity because when you don't, so that's a bit of history comes into this. So what we're saying is that, look, this is an electoral promise that the president couldn't have done anything about. He said even at one point within 100 days, then another point they said within 120 days. But what time are we now even getting rid of it? This is what? November. So it's gone into what? About 10 to 11 months into office, you say. So in a way, it's not even been done according to plan. But I mean, it's better late than never. So now let's come to the other aspect, the economics, after the politics. And you know, sometimes a budget is a political statement too. Look, if you read well, they will tell you that a budget is more of politics than even economics. So that's to say that you make sure that the economics speak to the politics. The economics cannot just hang in the air. Because if you did that, you lose your people. You would lose your people if your budget doesn't talk politics. It doesn't come in a manner to help alleviate the cost of living, etc. That this Dr. Tuya Champon is mentioning. Because that's a key thing. Last year, by this time, we're railing. Cost of living is high. So how else would we help to alleviate the cost of living than by scraping very regressive taxes? So when we say regressive, maybe for the younger ones who don't understand, what we mean is that so the tax is said that everybody will pay the same, a percentage, irrespective of whether you earn 1,000 Ghana cedis a month or you earn 100,000 Ghana. So that's what we mean by it's regressive. So you see that if you earn 1,000 Ghana cedis a month and you are paying the COVID levy, in terms of percentages, you pay a lot more than the man who earns 100,000 cedis a month. So that's a regressive element. And knowing that this is a population where we have at least 10% living below the poverty line,
True.
You see that when we talk about regression, it's a serious matter. Right. So now looking into the budget, the reason, and you see, we will not make that mistake. The government that is seized with all the facts, knowing how much they expect to raise, we are going to raise about 224 billion in taxes. It means that it has done its homework, done all the calculations, and sees that even with this, what do you call it, scraping the COVID levy, we are scheduled, or we are projected to raise 224 billion in taxes. And Mr. Owusu made the point earlier. If we use what we collect judiciously, it will go very far. But if you collect a lot of money and it's not used judiciously and corruption takes a huge chunk of it, etc., then you neither went nor you came, like we like to say. So I support Mr. Owusu's statement too, that it's about using the little that you have, all right? Yes, and you look at non-tax revenue for next year, we're going to raise 27 billion, other tax revenue 14 billion. Then grants. You see how our economy is changed now. Grants will bring us what? 3 billion, right? Now, you know, I think the time we were in school, those days, the budget used to show a lot of the grants rather supporting the budget. Yeah, that was the structure of it. If you ask, I went to business school, my first degree, School of Admin. Yes, I remember the professor, is it Kofi Sapta? I forgot his name. He would come and the budget analysis. What kind of budget is it that you need a lot of foreign donors, with development partners to prop the budget? But I see over 20 years on, we are making a huge progress where grants, etc., have reduced markedly, rather than those days. Me looking at the budget and the fact that there is a drive, a huge drive to raise more revenue, and that there will be growth in ICT, right? Growth in ICT, growth in the finance sector, growth in agriculture. I believe they've done enough modeling. So for the government to say, look, this must go, they mean what they really mean. And that's why they are walking that talk. Because if they knew that it will not work at all, then they would come and then apologize and say that, oh, can we rename it? But to the extent that they say it should go, it tells you that, yes, this is a tax that must go. Yeah, somebody's reminded me, one of the professors, Kufinti, then there was the one who used to teach microeconomics and that. Yeah, he was a deputy manager for Omni-Basic. And that, yes, okay. So just going forward, looking at it, I believe that the government will not score an own goal. Reading the budget and how we propose to raise taxes, if they couldn't have done it, they wouldn't have scraped it. And this is Dr. Zato. If you check, the internet doesn't forget. Your own Dr. Baumia is said to be one of the persons who would have scraped the COVID levy. That's what is there. Google it. Baumia himself promised. So today, I don't know how Zato is arguing. I'm not arguing against this your own Baumia.
He says he's a man of his own mind.
Hook, line, and sinker. Lock, stock, and barrel. You never would depart from what Baumia says. So today,
I see you gradually running away.
Abusiafo mpanifo ni nya na wate omonka no me sure say wo enjoy mo nyina mpacho obe leave comment in the comment section afi wi a be share na foforo so anya bi ahwe right here on Nana Janto TV me dey the Stephen Zando enche obeti na kodwo Janto de sukato man enka okokra no o leave comment in the comment section afi obe share na wa subscribe Nana Janto TV say the video no drop ya wonsa ebeka makramo.